Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Delegate Corner. I'm your host Sinkas and today I'm chatting with Sam. Sam is the governance lead of ITU Blockchain, which is the biggest non-profit blockchain organization in Turkey. We discuss about her background, how she got involved with ITU Blockchain and Optimism governance, and her views, or rather ITU's blockchain views on governance. Let's dive into it. Hello Sam and welcome to Delegate Corner. Glad to have you on the show.
Hi, Sinkas. It's great to be here.
Amazing. We'd love to start by just getting to know you a little bit more. So whenever you were ready, just take it away and jump into your background and how you got involved with crypto.
Hi. My name is Sumaira, but most people call me Sam. I'm the head of delegation, or you can call head of governance at ITU Blockchain, and we will be talking about the governance on this podcast.
Amazing. And how did you join? Like, how you got involved with crypto specifically? Like, how has your journey unfolded on that front?
Yeah, it's actually really funny. My dad actually got involved with crypto way before than me. He was like into Bitcoin and he saw it and it was like, oh, what's that? And then he bought that at a very low price and he sold that at a very low price as well. So he was like, at after some years, he saw it again and he was like, oh wow, I shouldn't have sold that. And then that's the way he got involved with crypto. And while he was looking it up and while he was seeing it, he also taught me too. So that's how I got involved with it in the first place. And when I got involved in it, I liked it a lot. So I got into mostly like all of the areas of it. And then I found governance the closest to me. So that's why I'm taking most of my time for it and participating in that.
hmm All right. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about ITU blockchain, like what kind of group or organization it is, and how did you join it?
Yeah. So ITU blockchain is not only about governance, it is the biggest community in Turkey. And we have a lot of areas that we try to educate our members and also let them take part in that as well. We have a lot of committees that are focusing on different areas of blockchain. For example, it will be governance, it will be development, design, marketing. Every each area you might imagine, we have it, and I am specifically with the governance side. I'm the head of governance there. So that is what ITU blockchain is mostly focused on. It is a total nonprofit community based on the university students of Istanbul Technical University, which is equals to ITU basically.
Okay. And how did you join it? Were you a student of the Istanbul University or?
Yeah, I was a student at the university and I knew them before I was a student at the university because I saw them. But yeah, when I saw them, I knew I would be into the club or the community, you might call it. And when I got into the university, the first thing I did was to meet with them and get involved with them.
Okay. And on a personal level, you did mention that IDU blockchain offers education on many different fronts. On a personal level, other than governance, are there any things in the space that make you tick, like NFTs, DeFi, you name it?
Yeah, I mentioned that I got into blockchain and got to involve with every each area of it basically because it's all combined. Like if you go through a DeFi, you would probably hear the word NFT at some point and you will learn about that and then you will learn about other things. So yeah, I got involved with mostly every each area of it except development, I would say. I tried to, but like it's not my jam. So yeah, not that, but except that mostly DeFi and governance for me.
Right on. Definitely agree that the space, although at some point it feels a bit siloed, like each thing is its own, it's definitely
Hmm.
interconnected. And I have a similar experience of learning about multiple different things through my interaction with one specific thing. So, all right. And what brought you to Optimism, either like personally or as ITU blockchain? What was the thing that motivated you to get involved with Optimism?
Yeah, optimism. I didn't came up to optimism when I start to be a member at the committee, but I knew it beforehand. However, when I got involved with governance, they were like standing out, and I liked their governance style. I liked their vision and collective and all those. So those were the main things that motivated me to be participating on that. And when I got to ITU and when we got our committee together, I knew that we would be a delegate for them, and it was always the plan at the beginning.
Mhm. So you kind of like learned about Optimism, and then when you joined ITU, you said, all right, let's get involved with its governance.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, amazing. And how do you tackle your delegate duties as a delegate on Optimism? As an ITU blockchain, you did mention you're the governance lead, so I assume
Mhm.
you're kind of like coordinating and everything. But I'm curious to know how ITU blockchain operates, basically.
Yeah, in ITU blockchain, we always work as a team. So to explain the structure a bit more in specific details, I would say that the committee consists of like around 15 people that are from different expertises. Like some of them are developers, some of them are only into governance and all that. And what we try to achieve is to have different perspectives from different areas. And then we will be working together on each, let's say, proposal or anything going on governance. And by this way, we would have different point of views and we would have like a better decision-making process. And what we do in team is basically having a lot of people from different expertises and then combining those and working together as a team. So not only as one delegate, but we are a lot of people working as one delegate.
Mhm. Okay, and it's like a question I have and I ask all of my guests is, what do you think is like the biggest, like the hardest thing that you face as a delegate? Like what has been the challenge? And specifically in your case, and by extension of that question, I would love to learn what's the challenge being the lead of governance or a coordinator of multiple different people to get involved with delegation. So I'm curious to know like what do you think is challenging on a personal level, but also as a kind of like a coordinator of IDU blockchain.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that you need to face the same time that you got involved with governance is that governance has everything in it. Like it consists of every area of blockchain. So you might need to be able to know a lot about blockchain. And if you're not capable of doing that in the first time that you got involved with governance, which is totally okay, you still need some time to go over these things. And I think this is a challenge when you first start getting involved with governance. And when you continue, the consistency is also a challenge because it is always active and it is also very critical to be active on governance because the decisions are very important and you need to be very active in order to catch up with everything. So I think those are the biggest challenges that you might face when you get involved with governance.
Right on. And in terms of like when you're a group of multiple different people, obviously you mentioned that you can have different backgrounds, which is definitely helpful when assessing proposals. But at the same time, it's a bit more than that. You have to, in my opinion at least, you have to be more aligned with the broader Web3 ethos and like on Optimism, for example, and more specifically like the optimistic vision. So, in your opinion, what are some of the values, like the core values that a delegate must have, by extension, a member of your delegation team must have in order to participate in governance?
I would like I agree with what you said. It is definitely more than that. And when you consider that those people might have different ideas on the same topic, you need to be firstly respectful and also open-minded because there would be an idea that you would not agree, but it doesn't change the fact that that person might think this way and it is also valuable. So you need to be very open-minded and also you need to be like you're really interested in governance as well because if you're not you wouldn't be very much motivated to work with a lot of people who would have different ideas and do discussions and decide on critical things. Like it is hard, especially considering that ITU blockchain is a non-profit organization. You don't even get a materialistic outcome out of that, so you are definitely doing it totally voluntarily. So we acknowledge that it could be hard sometimes, and I would ask for my members to be tough. If you just say like in the general space, you need to be open-minded, you need to be respectful and interested, and those are the first things that you need to start with. And other than that, the others will come eventually when you get involved with governance.
Mhm. Definitely agree. And if I may add, because I'm actually like actively involved in governance, and I think that you also need to be resilient because, as you mentioned, it's like it's not a very like seen job or something that it's like appreciated as much as it deserves by the community. So definitely hear you on the other values there. All right, and in terms of like practical approach to governance, what are some best practices that a delegate must have in order to be, quote unquote, successful in their duties? And at the same time, I'm curious about like any practices that you have as a team in terms of how you tackle different works or how you approach different proposals.
Yeah. So for a delegate to be like, for a best practice for a delegate will be going over governance places like governance forums, proposals, obviously, but like forums are really important because that's where everybody discusses and that's where all the discussions are going on, and you need to be active on that in order to get everybody's opinion and understand the process in general, because governance is not only about proposals or platforms. It's mostly going on with people governing and taking part on it by doing discussions and deciding. Like deciding is not only voting. I think it happens beforehand, the most important part. In order to catch up with these, I would also suggest that it is a good advice to follow up some things that give you a summary of the forum if you're not available to follow up with everything. Like you might follow a boardroom or all these other like people that are taking part and having their time to write on Medium or Substack. You might follow these because there's a lot of things that you might follow the summaries of the forums from. So I would also suggest you can practice on that as well if you start to get involved with governance and don't have a lot of time to go over every discussion on forums.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. And I think it's like almost like a full-time job, just keeping on top of
Exactly.
discussions happening. Yeah. And how do you make decisions as ITU blockchain? Obviously, you mentioned that there are multiple members of your team, so I can imagine sometimes being like contradicting opinions on how to vote. So I'm curious if you have a set framework that you use, or if it's just on an ad hoc basis based on the arguments for each proposal and for each vote.
Yeah, we have a structure definitely. What we do is, let's say when a proposal comes up, I have an assistant and she will inform the team and she will say, there's a proposal. And then we will work on that, on which people will be taking part on like the proposal, like the presentation of it, because everybody cannot go there and search up everything and every detail. So that's why we choose like 3 or 4 people to look out for every detail other than the proposal itself. And they will create a document explaining every each detail. And then we will hold a meeting and they will present that document to us, and we will know if we missed anything or is there any additional information we need to take care of. And after that, we will go for discussions. And on that part, we discuss about proposal, we discuss about our vote and our rationales. And by those discussions, we create arguments and like rationales basically. And right after the meeting, we start to work on creating rationales and posting them. By that, we mean we post floods on Twitter explaining the details of our decision, our arguments, and all that with our community, because we have like a lot of people following us on Twitter and we want to get governance going on Twitter as well. And other than that, we would also create a governance report basically based on the proposal and post that on the forum. So we will basically create 2 different contents based on the proposal, and it will be like that. And we definitely go over each step very detailedly, and it would probably take a bit longer time than an individual delegate because we work as a team and we do discussions for a long time, but we just managed to do every detail of it.
Yeah, happy to hear that you have such an extensive process in terms of making informed decisions. And I think it's evident by your presence in the forums and the rationales you provide for voting and the arguments that you raise in the discussions that you're involved with. I've seen your participation in the forums, and I'm really happy to see contributors as engaged as you are. And moving on a more like broader topic, or kind of like a bigger picture item, I'm curious to get IDU's blockchain view on optimism governance as it is, like things that we are strong at or things that we are lacking, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think optimism governance is very strong when it comes to the community, the vision, the collective. I think it is very well designed and it is very accredited with our community because the vision goes over the impact equals profit policy, and it also really values public goods. And what we do is basically all voluntarily providing for the blockchain community. And I think it really supports us, and we want to support optimism governance as well because we think that they're doing a great job, and it is also similar to our vision as well. The things that are lacking is probably not only for optimism, but governance in general, because it is still like kind of new, still there we need some places to work on. We still need some time to experience the other things, and we can do experiments as well, which is totally fine. But the lacking things are mostly those places that we need to do a bit more experiments in, and as well as that the community of optimism is really big, so sometimes some delegates are not very recognized enough, and I think this is also a lack, but a podcast like this is a solution for this, so I appreciate you doing the podcast, just to mention as a note.
Thank you so much. And yeah, definitely agree that like there are some broader issues to to tackle, and not only present in optimism but in other like DAOs as well. I've been active in other DAOs, and I can attest to the fact that there are issues like common across all DAOs. Right. And what are like on Optimism, what are some successful initiatives or programs we've run? Like think about like RPGF or mission proposals in season 4. Like in those terms, like what do you think was successful or unsuccessful about them? How could we improve them? What could be different?
Yeah, I think that most of them were successful. I liked RPGF so much because it is really combined with the vision, and it is something really needed for optimism, I think. And I appreciate them doing that. And with the mission proposals, we also participated on that, and that is also great. I think Optimism really values its community and really wants to support people and really does that, like not only on the page, but it really acts on that. So that's what I like about Optimism the most. The thing that it would lack could be that it is kind of complex because a lot of people are participating on that, and the structure could be better. I think it would be more clear to understand. But other than that, I think what they're trying to do matters the most, and I think it is a great thing that what they're doing.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree on those points. And where do you see the OP DAO like 1 or 2 years from now?
I see them as a lot of like more people participating on that and more people being aware, because I think even though the community is really large, I think it still could be larger and more people could participate on governance as well. And I think it could be because of the challenges that I mentioned before, like it would be maybe they're hesitating to take part in because it is kind of risky, and also you need to learn a lot more and it's still something new. So maybe from 1 or 2 years from now, most people will be participating on that and also being aware of its vision and collective and actually participating by being aware, which is, I think, the most important thing.
What are some challenges that we'll have to overcome in order to get to a point where there's more participation in governance?
I think the biggest challenge would be to come up to like make everybody come up to same values when it comes to discussions, because the thing about governance is that people would have different opinions, right? And you wouldn't know which one would be correct on which one would be more valuable or more important. So because of that, I think it is a biggest challenge because you wouldn't know which one to take and which one to actually consider more. But other than that, I think another important challenge is the transparency or honesty of the delegates, because as ITU blockchain, we try to do provide a lot of rationales and arguments for each proposal, but we're also aware that it is hard to do that with every each proposal. So it is a big challenge to like really obtain that and be consistent on that. But I think it is really important when it comes to governance, because people really need to know your opinions, and it also what matters when it comes to a delegate, because you're actually representing optimism and you need to provide some sort of arguments when it comes to your voting, because it also matters. So I think those would be the biggest challenges when it comes to the governance.
Yeah, absolutely agree, and especially on the transparency part. I myself have been very adamant about the term that I've coined is proactive transparency. Is the fact that you're being transparent actively, right? You're like putting out a delegate
Exactly.
providing rationales. So yeah, definitely hear you on that end. And all right, and going back, the purpose of this podcast is basically to spotlight delegates and get new delegates or smaller delegates to be heard. So I'd like to ask you whether there's a particular delegate that you'd like to see in the podcast next, and bonus points if they are a delegate that hasn't received as much like voting power or delegations as others.
Yeah, I think for both of those, I would say Subli DeFi. I think he's really doing a great job and he needs to be coming up more. And I think this podcast would be a better option for that. So yeah, I would say Subli DeFi.
Yeah, hopefully I can get them on the podcast. So open invitation, Subli. I'll tag them in on Twitter as well. So hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, and lastly, to close things off, where can somebody learn more about ITU blockchain and your actions as a delegate? Now it's your time to share any website, delegate communication thread, Twitter, whatever it is that you want to share.
Yeah, exactly. I think, I mean, we're on every social media you might imagine, like everything, Twitter, Instagram, Lens, Mirror, anything you would search up for would come up. But the most active we are at is on Twitter. And for governance specifically, you might follow us on Twitter to check out the flaws. And also on governance forum, you might follow our profile. It's itublockchain.eth. And you would see our reports on there. And I think that would be it. You can also participate on our Discord. It is a really safe space. Like we get to talk a lot and we do a lot of spaces on Twitter as well. Like we're very active when it comes to social media. So feel free to check out every platform. We're definitely there.
All right, and I'll have the links in the description so anybody who's interested can grab them easily. And I almost forgot one of the biggest, one of the most optimistic things of this episode is basically giving a shout out to a member of the collective, be it an individual, a group, builder, member of the foundation. It doesn't matter. So if you want to give a shout out to anybody in the collective for their contribution, now it's the time to do so.
I will give a shout out to Griff. I know him very well, and I know that he's really focused on governance and focused on public goods specifically. And I think it would be very helpful for Optimism and its collective. And I would love to give him a shout out. So,
Yeah,
hey,
absolutely.
Griff.
Absolutely. I have had Griff in the previous episode as a guest. Very interesting conversation. And if anybody is interested, it's going to be right around here somewhere. You'll find it and click on that so you can see it. All right. Sam, thank you so much for coming to the episode. Really appreciated having you on and talking and learning more about ITU blockchain.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation.
Happy to hear that. And for everybody watching or listening, thanks once again for tuning in to Delegate Corner.